Hey guys, how's it going? Master Cal here, and today I'm going to be doing the 26th video for my 2021 offseason preview series, the Cleveland Browns. So the Browns snapped what was the longest postseason drought in the NFL at 18 seasons by becoming a wildcard team. They beat their division rival Steelers in the wildcard round in a game that the Steelers just dug themselves in too deep of a hole at the beginning of the game. And they gave the eventual AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs a pretty good fight and nearly came back, but they weren't able to close it out and they lost in the divisional round. So we will see what the Browns can do to progress in the next step. So their starters by cap space. At quarterback is Baker Mayfield, the number 1 overall pick from 2018. Mayfield had a nice bounce back year from his disappointing 2019 season, as he kept the turnovers low and he was very efficient at distributing the ball. At running back is Kareem Hunt, former Chief who has reinvented himself in Cleveland, obviously after his time in Kansas City ended because of off-field incidents. And he splits time with Nick Chubb, Chubb being more of the running back and Hunt being more of the pass-catching back. At left tackle is Jedrick Wills Jr. The Browns took him 10th overall in this past draft. Wills was a right tackle at Alabama, but the Browns made him their starting left tackle immediately with pretty solid results. He did struggle with some sacks and penalties early on, but as a whole, there was a lot to like. At left guard is Joel Bitonio, who's been a rock on the left side of that offensive line for a while now. At center is J.C. Treader, who hasn't missed a snap since coming over to Cleveland to be their starting center. Right guard is Wyatt Teller, who was a trade pickup from the Bills in 2019, and this past season he was the best guard in the NFL by Pro Football Focus after an excellent breakout year. And right tackle is Jack Conklin, former top 10 pick of the Titans, who left for the Browns in free agency last year in a 3-year deal. He also had an outstanding season. The offensive line as a whole was great. It was a position of weakness a year or two ago, and it became a position of strength. At wide receiver, we got 2 LSU teammates, Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry. Both of them acquired via trade, Landry in 2018 and Beckham in 2019. There's been a lot of speculation about Beckham's future, given that he wasn't that great in his first year in Cleveland, and in this past year, he suffered an ACL tear about week 6 or 7, so that's led to a lot of speculation. Now, it is worth mentioning that he does have injury guarantees that will vest into full guarantees on the 3rd day of the new league year, which is the 19th. And that means that which because of that injury, they will vest, and he will be there. And the Browns have stated publicly in recent days that they are not going to be moving on from Beckham, at least not now. Landry had a pretty good year last year. And then I got 2 tight ends listed for them, partially because of their cap hits and partially because Kevin Stefanski's offense is very tight end centric. You got Austin Hooper, who came over in free agency from the Falcons on a 4-year deal. He had a pretty nice first year. And then you got David Njoku, former first rounder in 2017, who just hasn't really put it all together for the Browns. He's been injured. He's had underwhelming games. He's requested a trade. The Browns have held firm. Just various stuff has gone on like that. It sounds like the Browns are open to trading him away, and he's set to enter the 5th-year option of his rookie deal, which, because he was in the 2017 draft class, it isn't guaranteed until the new league year, so the Browns could trade or release him for no dead money if they wanted to. Their defensive starters, you've got Myles Garrett, the number 1 overall pick in 2017, who is one of the best pass rushers in the game. Obviously, we know in 2019 he had that incident where he hit Mason Rudolph in the head with the helmet, but it sounds like he's moved past that, and he had another outstanding year, and he got himself a pretty large contract that briefly made him the highest paid pass rusher in the league up until a few weeks later, or actually it was a few months later, when Joey Bosa upped that. Defensive tackle is Sheldon Richardson, former Jet, former Seahawk, former Viking. In his 3rd year at the Browns, he signed a 3-year deal as a free agent in 2019. He plays a lot of snaps for them. He isn't really, I guess, the outstanding player that he was in his first 2 seasons in the league, but he's still pretty solid. Next to him is Andrew Billings, a former Bengal. He joined the Browns on a 1-year deal last offseason, but he opted out. And then defensive end is Adrian Claiborne, former Buck, former Falcon, former Patriot. He joined the Browns on a 2-year deal this past offseason. However, the Browns yesterday decided to release him for $3 million in cap savings. At linebacker, you've got three young players, Sione Takitaki, Jacob Phillips, and Mac Wilson. Takitaki was a third rounder in 2019, Wilson was a fifth rounder in 2019, and then Phillips was a third rounder in 2020. Takitaki was the number 2 linebacker last year for the Browns. Wilson dealt with an injury and didn't see as much playing time as he did in his rookie season, and then Phillips barely played. At cornerback is Denzel Ward, who was the 4th overall pick in 2018. He had a great rookie season, and then he's been closer to solid than great in his next 2 seasons. And then you got Greedy Williams, 2nd rounder in 2019 from LSU. He did not play last season because of an injury. In the slot is MJ Stewart, former 2nd rounder of the Buccaneers, who the Browns claimed off of waivers. He saw some defensive action because of injuries in the secondary, but mostly saw special teams work. At safety is going to be Ronnie Harrison, former 3rd rounder of the Jacksonville Jaguars, who was traded to the Browns at the end of training camp. And he had a pretty nice season for them. And then their number 2 safety is Grant Delpit, 2nd rounder in 2020 from LSU, but like his former Tiger Williams, he also did not play last year because of injury. Charlie Hewlett is their special teamer, Jamie Gillen is their punter, and they did not have a kicker under contract at the close of the season. So their free agents are going to be starting defensive end Olivier Vernon, who unfortunately suffered an Achilles tear in Week 17, which was obviously he was having a pretty good season, a much better second season than first season in Cleveland, but that injury is a huge blow to his prospective chances at getting the free agent market. So, slot corner Kevin Johnson, cornerback Terrence Mitchell, who was the primary replacement for Williams last year, starting safety Carl Joseph, starting linebacker B.J. Goodson, safety Andrew Sendejo, offensive tackle Kendall Lamb, linebacker Malcolm Smith, the guy who was the Super Bowl MVP with the Seahawks in their Super Bowl win, wide receiver kick returner JoJo Natson, starting nose tackle Larry Ogunjobi, kicker Cody Parkey, wide receiver Rashard Higgins, who had a pretty nice season last year, linebacker Elijah Lee, wide receiver Taywan Taylor, wide receiver Kadero Hodge is a restricted free agent, cornerback Brian Allen is an exclusive rights free agent, guard Anthony Fabiano is a restricted free agent, wide receiver Marvin Hall is a restricted free agent, defensive tackle Vincent Taylor, defensive end George Obinna is an exclusive rights free agent, cornerback Tavier Thomas is a restricted free agent. The Browns reportedly are not going to be tendering him a contract. Linebacker Tay Davis is a restricted free agent. Defensive lineman Porter Gustin is an exclusive rights free agent. The Browns have re-signed him. And tight end Steven Carlson is an exclusive rights free agent. The Browns also tendered him a contract. So the Browns have $24.87 million in cap space after the release of Claiborne, so that's quite a bit to work with. As far as their needs go, I don't think offensively, I think the Browns have great personnel on offense. They don't really need to make any upgrades there. They just need to, get Teller locked up long term for one thing. It sounds like they're not going to sign Baker Mayfield to an extension, and the reason for that is because they don't want to go down the same path that the Rams and the Eagles just went down with Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, where less than 2 years after they sign big money extensions, they underwhelm and they have to take on big dead cap hits to move them. The defense lagged behind the offense last year, and so that's definitely where their positions are going to be needed to upgrade. Getting a second pass rusher to play next to Myles Garrett to replace Vernon is going to be a big one. The Browns did show interest in J.J. Watt before he ultimately signed with the Cardinals, so it sounds like they are looking at upgrading that position. Definitely linebacker. We'll see if they're fine with Stewart being their nickelback or if they add somebody else there. And then I could maybe see them adding a safety as well. And they will also need a kicker unless they elect to re-sign Parkey. So as far as who their cap casualties could be, the only cap casualty on offense is realistically is going to be Njoku. And again, they could cut or trade him before March 17th and save and have no dead money. I don't really know what the Browns' price is going to be, if it's going to drop to like a 4th-round pick. And I have to imagine that the Browns might be looking at Zach Ertz of the Eagles and seeing what he gets traded for, as there's no way Njoku gets traded for more than Ertz does. And again, they're not going to cut or trade Beckham because of his injury guarantees that vest in the full guarantees. So on the defensive side, they could cut Richardson, but I don't believe they will because he's still a pretty solid starter. Again, they did cut Claiborne, and then that's basically really about it because a lot of their guys on defense are pretty young. So like their only cap casualties then are Njoku and Claiborne and maybe Richardson. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed and stay tuned for the next offseason preview video.